Hey everybody, I'm Taylor.
And I'm Candace.
And this is the Candor Podcast where we speak the truth in love.
Today we will be talking about the story of Jacob's ladder in the Bible and how the culture has twisted its meaning to create their own meaning. First, let's look at what the Bible has to say. We can find the story of Jacob's ladder in Genesis 28. Here are verses 10 through 12. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and laid down. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it.
In the next verses, God reveals himself to Jacob as the God of Abraham and Isaac. He reminds Jacob of his covenant and how it extends to Jacob and his future descendants. Jacob's descendants would be provided land, and it would be numerous, and it would be blessed. In verses 16 through 17, we see Jacob's response. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven."
As Christians, we know that God made it possible for us to be saved. Through Jesus, we have been provided the only way to heaven. Jesus explained this to his disciples in John 14, verse 6. "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me."
Although we know that Jesus is the only way, there have been many who have tried to build their own way to salvation. An example of this is the building of the Tower of Babel in Genesis. We can find this in Genesis chapter 11. Verses 1 through 4 read, "Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, 'Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly.' They used brick instead of stone, and tar for mortar. Then they said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered all over the face of the whole earth.'"
God was upset with their behavior, and so he confused their language so that they scattered over the earth. Bible Study Tools explains why God was so disappointed. God was displeased with the Tower of Babel because it symbolized human arrogance and rebellion. The people sought to build a tower to the heavens to make a name for themselves, indicating a desire for self-sufficiency and independence from God. God's response was to scatter them and confuse their language, humbling humanity and reasserting divine authority.
These people were in rebellion with God. While God wanted them to spread across the earth, they refused to do so. In Genesis 9, verse 1, we see God's desire for humanity. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth." God repeats himself in verse 7, "As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it."
This rebellious nature is nothing new, just as there is nothing new under the sun. Our culture still brings forth the idea of building their own stairway or ladder to heaven apart from God. They want to come together to exalt themselves and defy God. We can see examples of this in our own media.
The first song we'll be looking at is called "So Long" by the Lumineers. This song is about the desire to be famous even after death, but wrestling with isolation and loneliness that come with chasing popular iconic status. Here's the chorus. "Sit in isolation all the time. I'll be on the ocean in your eyes. Tell it on the mountain. He's arrived. Everybody's famous for a while."
The lyrics that say "tell it on the mountain" seem to mimic the "go tell it on the mountain" hymn, in which we are encouraging the proclamation of Jesus' birth from every mountain. Instead, these lines seem to imply that the character in the song is being declared as famous.
The song seems to be a brokenness in pursuing fame, but also a desire to be remembered when they see death. Here is the bridge. "And if you lost your way to heaven, buy another ladder from Jacob. Needed it to matter. I don't care if your family hates it."
The bridge suggests that if you get lost, you can always find your own way to heaven. The character in the song tells the other that their family hates it, probably referring to religious family members hating their lifestyle. The last line of the last chorus, which is to say, "Maybe we'll be famous when we die." Despite the brokenness of chasing fame and riches, people will still attempt to build their own stairway to heaven through these prospects.
The next song is one I'm sure you've heard before. It's "Stairway to Heaven" by Led Zeppelin. It was composed by guitarist Jimmy Page and was written by the lead singer Robert Plant. Before we look at the lyrics, it's important to note that Jimmy Page allegedly had an obsession with the occultist Aleister Crowley, who is known affectionately as the wickedest man alive.
While he denied being a Satanist, he called himself the Beast 666. Jimmy Page bought Crowley's old house in Scotland. While some have claimed to have found hidden messages while playing the song backwards, while that may or may not be true, the lyrics themselves point to some troubling spiritual ideas.
The first verse starts by introducing a lady who thinks that she can buy a stairway into heaven. It suggests that she's looking for riches. Jumping into verse 4, we are told about a piper who will lead us to reason. There are a few points in the song where it encourages us to join in together as one.
Here's the bridge and the outro of the song. As we wind on down the road, our shadows taller than our soul, there walks a lady we all know who shines white light and wants to show how everything still turns to gold. And if you listen very hard, the tune will come to at last, when all are one and one is all, to be a rock and not to rule. And she's buying a stairway to heaven.
The song seems to point to people to getting their own riches and salvation. It encourages the idea that if we listen to reason, or the tune, we can come together as one and build our own stairway to heaven. This is very satanic and points to what we will call the unholy trinity, but more on that later.
The last piece of media we will be looking at is a clip from The Truman Show. If you are not familiar with the movie The Truman Show, it's about a man named Truman Burbank who was adopted by a television studio when he was a baby. They had him grow up in an enclosed set where everyone but him was an actor. The studio recorded his life for an American audience to view while he was unaware.
At the end of the movie, he climbs a set of stairs that lead up to an exit sign. Here is the clip.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
Truman is shown finding his own way out of this artificial world and becoming a free man. He finds his own salvation. And I should mention that the exasperated-looking director in the booth resembles God. It's as if he's surprised that anyone would be able to make it out on their own. This image of God shows an angry God who doesn't have Truman's best interest in mind.
This rebellious attitude toward God is deeply embedded into our media, whether we see it or not. In Isaiah 14, verses 12 through 15, we are told about the king of Babylon, which also resembles Satan. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zephon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit.
We see that Satan had a similar attitude. He desired to exalt himself above God, but this led to his downfall. Satan's goal is now to convince humanity to rebel against God, in the same way. In Revelation, we read about how the new Babylon will rule in the end times.
Revelation 13 tells us of a beast that will rise up out of the sea. This is the Antichrist that will rule the nations. He will be given power to rule by the dragon, also known as Satan. It describes the kind of power that would be held by this beast. Here we are shown the kind of power that will be held by this beast in verses 7 through 8. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world.
We see this unholy union under the power of the Antichrist. There will be a second beast who makes the people of the earth worship the first beast. People will not be able to buy or sell unless they receive the mark of the beast. The kings of this future Babylon will unite together to fight against God. In Revelation 17, verses 12 to 14, it says, The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war against the Lamb. But the Lamb will triumph over them because he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen and faithful followers.
In Revelation 19, we see the battle between Jesus with his heavenly army and the wicked of the earth. Verses 19 through 21 tells us about it. Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to wage war against the rider on the horse and his army. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The 2 of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest were killed with a sword coming out of the mouth of the rider on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh.
Even though it may seem discouraging at times to see the fallen state of the world, we can hold on to the truth that Jesus, the Lord of lords and King of kings, will be victorious. We don't have to worry about the temporary power that evil has now because we have a hope that can't be taken from us.
Jesus is our one true hope in this world of brokenness and deception. We can trust in him and his plan for our lives. Have you ever seen any references to Jacob's ladder in the media? If so, let us know what they are in the comments.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content.
See you next time.
False.